Shadows cloaked the damp cave, where the chilling echoes of anguished screams reverberated off the stone walls. The goblins were in a frenzy, reveling in the demise of their leader. One goblin, his eyes a furious shade of red, lost his sanity and proclaimed himself the new chief. Yet, another goblin contested this claim, convinced that his own efforts warranted the title. Consumed by jealousy and fury, he lunged at his rival, sinking his teeth into the other's nose. The cave erupted into chaos, with screams intensifying as goblins gathered around, reveling in the spectacle and wagering on the outcome. This pandemonium was their source of delight, a cherished pastime for these simple creatures. Amidst the uproar, they began to plot, whispering about the hidden prey that the former leader had kept a human girl untouched. Some goblins hesitated, wary of a different goblin who guarded her. Unlike his kin, who donned ragged garments merely to cover themselves, he was draped in tattered rags that concealed nearly his entire form, exuding a menacing presence. They feared that with the leader gone, this unusual goblin would claim the girl for himself. They watched him closely, waiting for the perfect moment to seize the girl when the opportunity arose. The clever goblins proposed waiting a bit longer, as their strongest members had gone ahead to locate the prey. They planned to let the strange goblin fight before taking advantage of the chaos to kill him and claim the prey for themselves. However, they didn't anticipate the strange goblin overhearing their conversation. Upon realizing that the girl was in danger, the strange goblin swiftly ran back to her location. When he arrived, he was horrified to find the rebellious goblins ready to harm the girl. Despite the leader's refusal to release her, the strange goblin was determined to protect her. This led to a confrontation, with the big goblin and his henchmen attacking the strange goblin. Despite being outnumbered, the strange goblin fought back and managed to kill the biggest goblin, causing the others to fear him like never before. The strange goblin raised his weapon, his words devoid of any emotion as he commanded them to either leave or face death. The chilling threat and the sight of the giant creature falling quickly sent the other goblins running in fear, shouting warnings of their return with reinforcements. Despite their departure, the strange goblin remained vigilant, knowing that this was only the beginning of the challenges ahead. Kelia, the girl who stood by him, recognized his unique nature and expressed her gratitude for his protection. She hoped he would survive, knowing that goblins typically wouldn't defend a human. Little did she know, the reason behind the goblin's actions was that he was actually a human himself. Just a few days ago, Lamp had tragically died in an accident, only to find himself in a new world with a mysterious system that had yet to fully activate. Despite its seemingly limited functions, Kelia enlightened him on the significance of these stats in a world governed by powerful gods and inhabited by formidable monsters, where humans showcased their dominance through sheer strength. Regrettably, the goblin found himself reborn as the weakest and most wretched creature in existence, with alarmingly low stats that made him an easy target for his own kind. At present, he was at level 5, boasting a mere 20 hit points, 5 strength, and 5 defense, culminating in a total strength of just 30. Fortunately, his name remained unchanged, he was still Lamine. Yet, there was a glimmer of hope for him to grow stronger in this unforgiving world. Goblins had a unique ability to enhance their power through mating, but lacking a female counterpart, they resorted to abducting women. This practice deeply troubled Lamine, a former human, as it clashed with his moral compass. However, the harsh reality demanded strength for survival. Observing Lamine's distress, the girl reassured him not to dwell on it too much. After spending time together, she recognized his distinct nature, one that set him apart from other goblins, and she expressed her desire to escape their company. With a bright smile, she promised that when the knights arrived to rescue her, she would share how he had saved her. The knights, known for their fairness, would surely allow him to live in her village. Her optimism ignited a spark of hope within Lamine. He clung to her words, believing that if he could endure until the humans came, he might gain their protection and eventually unlock the full potential of his abilities. Things didn't go as smoothly as Lamb had hoped. A scream pierced the air, signaling the return of the goblins. Without hesitation, he instructed Kelia to hide, and she obeyed. The first goblin appeared, charging wildly at Lamb, screaming about the presence of humans and its desire to take the girl to become stronger. Lamb quickly dispatched the goblin, informing Kelia that they were here to save her. Kelia's face lit up with joy at the thought of being rescued. Lamb, on the other hand, felt a mix of excitement and concern. The appearance of a knight meant salvation for Kelia, But the knight's effortless defeat of the goblins made Lamb question his own abilities. As Lamb observed the knight, named Lower, with awe, he couldn't help but be surprised by his incredible stats. With a level of 25, strength of 30, and defense of 50, equipped with powerful armor and weapons, Lower seemed almost superhuman in this world. He lifted his sword, ready to end her life. In disbelief, he watched the scene unfold, never anticipating such a swift conclusion. With no other option, Lamp stepped forward, pushing Kelia aside and confronting Lower. He hoped there would be enough time for Kelia to escape. Grabbing his makeshift weapon, Lamp lunged at Lower, an outcome he hadn't foreseen. Yet, even if it meant sacrificing himself, he was determined to protect the girl. This act could be his chance to prove he was once human. But just before their clash, a magical barrier enveloped Lamp, leaving both him and Lower stunned. The magic emanated from a woman clad in white, her aura radiating purity and authority. She commanded Lower to halt, sensing something unusual about the goblin. This woman was none other than the saint, Ephra. Seizing the moment, Kelia crawled over, pleading for her help. Ephra assisted Kelia to her feet and presented her to Lower, who had just moments ago tried to kill her. Then, she turned her gaze to Lamp, inquiring if he could comprehend her words. Trapped within the barrier, Lamp recalled Kelia's words about Ephra being the saint and the voice of the divine temple, his only hope for survival. He quickly affirmed that he could understand her, taking a deep breath as he insisted he wasn't a monster of this realm. He had once been human, transformed by an accident, and he could explain everything if she would take him with her. While Lower dismissed the goblin as merely a bit more intelligent than the rest, Ephra smiled. Goblins were typically seen as foolish and lowly, incapable of coherent thought or speech. Yet here was one who could articulate himself, perhaps a sign of favor from the Holy Mother. Ephra then turned to Kelia, asking her to verify that this goblin had not harmed her. With joy, Kelia confirmed that Lamp had not only spared her but had also protected her from other goblins and provided her with food, which delighted Ephra. She became aware of the peculiar nature of the goblin and decided to return it to the temple for a thorough examination before making any choices. Upon hearing this, Kelia felt a surge of happiness, having kept her promise to the goblin. She then turned to Lambda, inquiring if he would join them. Lamb's face lit up with joy as he eagerly agreed to accompany them. At last, things seemed to be looking up for Lambda, as he found himself in the company of someone who could truly listen and understand him. With a snap of her fingers, EP quickly shattered the barrier that had confined Lambda, instructing everyone to get ready to depart. A sense of safety washed over Lambda regarding his future, filling him with immense gratitude. He approached Efford to express his thanks, vowing to repay her kindness. However, as he studied her face more closely, he was taken aback by a sinister smile. Suddenly, he heard a sound he dreaded, the unmistakable noise of metal slicing through flesh. He instinctively turned away in fear, only to have his worst fears confirmed. Kelia had been slain, her lifeless body sprawled on the cold ground. Lambda stood frozen, overwhelmed by shock. Just when he thought things were improving, it all turned out to be a cruel deception. In that moment, the voice of the woman he believed to be his savior echoed, accompanied by her mocking laughter. She ridiculed his innocence, claiming that his willing obedience was the best way to repay her. Lambda grasped the harsh truth of this world. A week later, in the village, the bell tolled, calling everyone to the town square. As the villagers gathered, Lower addressed them, announcing the tragic goblin attack on Bright Town. This revelation ignited fury among the crowd, who clamored for vengeance, viewing humans and goblins as eternal foes. Just as Lower had anticipated, their anger surged, and he began to extol the virtues of the temple. The knights, acting on behalf of the temple, have vanquished the goblins and avenged the villagers. Then, the holy maiden Ephra steps forward, channeling her powers to create a mesmerizing display that encourages the villagers to keep praying to the temple. She reassures them that the temple will always safeguard its loyal followers. Her words resonate deeply, rekindling faith even in the hearts of the most doubtful. The villagers turn to the temple with renewed devotion and trust. Later, Ephra retreats to her chambers, reveling in the triumph of her speech. It's a familiar scene. These villagers are the most easily swayed individuals one could encounter. They will pray more fervently, worship the temple with greater zeal, and bring her even more offerings. Her smug satisfaction is suddenly interrupted by a voice calling her name. It's the goblin lamb, who has regained consciousness, bearing the marks of his torment, horrific scars, and a missing eye. Yet, despite his injuries, a fierce rage burns in his remaining eye. Ephra dismisses his words, a twisted smile forming on her lips as she admires his stubborn spirit. It's been ages since she witnessed such resilience. Perhaps this is why the temple has struggled to wipe out all goblins from the continent. Lamb's awakening excites Ephra, as it allows her to continue her experiments and observe the effects of the poison on him. Enraged, Lamb accuses her, demanding to know if this is the true nature of her temple and the so-called justice humans brag about. His fury is met with Ephra's cruel indifference as she silences him with a sharp jab of her staff against his mouth, laughing at his anger. How dare a weak, filthy creature like him, a degenerate goblin, question human justice? She claims that Kelia was under a spell and that her betrayal warranted death, which she deems a final act of loyalty. To her, goblins are nothing more than pests on this continent. It is a great honor that the Holy Maiden even speaks to you. Be grateful and use your wretched little body to serve mankind in the temple's experiments. The brutal torture continues, but the helpless resist the unbearable pain. Even when he falls unconscious, he's quickly awakened by the torment. In his torture, he wonders if he'll die here. He doesn't want to, but he can't blame anyone but himself. He was so foolish, reborn as a lowly goblin. He had naively believed in humans, in the kindness of those not of his kind. His weakness and naivety led to Kelly's death after he was captured by the villagers. Lohr and Ephra tortured and tormented him with every imaginable cruelty. They never believed his word, taking sick pleasure in his suffering. Line's suffering eventually comes to an end. He's tortured to death by the cruel woman. His only wish in his final moments, if he had another chance, was to never trust humans again. If he could do it again, he'd crush their bones and drink their blood. But that was only if he could be reborn as his consciousness fades. Instead of drifting into an endless void, Lamp awakens in a different space, a place filled with brilliant white light and twinkling stars. His body is fully healed. Before he can ask where he is, a system window appears, informing him that the Goblin life simulation system has been activated. A brief summary of his life flashes before him. Due to your naivety, you forgot you were a goblin. Humans will never trust goblins. You died from torture and abuse. This pain will be engraved in your mind, and you will never forget. As a result, you are the most tragic character in the rebirth system. Do you want to start again? Yes or no? Lamp is startled. His system only activated when he died, and this system might allow him to be reborn. But will he be reborn as a low-level goblin this time? The system reminds him, if you choose no, your soul will completely dissipate. Choosing yes meant he would be reborn as a goblin, a week earlier than expected, and that filled him with exhilaration. Just a week ago, this was his opportunity for revenge against Lohr and Ephra. Naturally, he opted for rebirth. A brilliant light surrounded him as he transitioned into his new goblin form, and his eyes sparkled with fury. This rebirth was unique. It was his Goblin to Zero life, designed to enhance his longevity. The system granted him a bit more power, and as he felt the surge of strength, a satisfied grin spread across his face. Coming back to life was paramount, but he realized this might be his only shot. The system quickly alerted him to an impending threat. Temple warriors were approaching. And if he perished again, there would be no second chance. This revelation stunned him, but he knew he was fortunate to have been reborn at all. He wasn't yet strong enough to confront the temple, so he urgently inquired about his options. The system introduced itself as the Goblin Life Simulation System, capable of simulating his life and forecasting future events. Each decision would lead to different outcomes, with each simulation taking 24 hours to complete. Afterward, he would earn points based on his choices, which he could trade for items within the system. This concept amused him. The ability to glimpse the future was a game changer. He wasted no time in activating the simulation, which displayed his current predicament: escape the Goblin Cave. He had to make critical choices. 1. Warn his goblin allies and band together against the humans for a reward of 10 points. 2. Abandon his fellow goblins and flee alone for 5 points. or 3. Hide in the cave and hope the temple warriors overlooked him, which would yield no points. Lamb pondered the situation, weighing the 3 options available to him. Despite the united strength of all the goblins in the cave, he was certain they wouldn't stand a chance against Loder in battle. The outcome seemed grim, with death looming, yet he decided to proceed with the first option. His hope was to earn enough points to exchange for a weapon from the shop, allowing him to take down Loder with a sneak attack. As the simulation played out, all the goblins met their demise. The system deemed it a failure, reminding him to think carefully before making decisions, but rewarded him with 10 points. Though his plan had faltered, Lamb was pleased with the points earned. Rushing to the system's shop, he found an array of weapons available for exchange. However, his points were insufficient, leaving him with only one option: a short knife. Despite its limitations, the knife provided a boost to his speed and strength. With the new stats displayed on his information panel, Lamb recalled Kelia and inquired about her whereabouts. The system revealed that due to his rebirth, Kelia was safe and happy with her family in the village. This news brought a smile to Lamb's face, fulfilling his promise to bring her home. With a sense of relief, he focused on his path to revenge, now free of worries. Determined to escape and survive, he chose a narrow exit, anticipating fewer guards. Outside, he overheard 2 weak goblin guards discussing their duties. Seizing the opportunity, Lamb carefully made his way towards the cave entrance, knowing that any goblin attempting to flee would be an easy target for the guards. Lower had instructed them to eliminate any girl who dared to escape and ensure she never returned to the village. This conversation only reinforced Lamb's conviction that everyone in the temple was a despicable lot, willing to turn against their own. As a goblin, he felt no obligation to show them mercy. Lamb pinched his nose, attempting to mimic a woman's distressed voice, pleading for assistance. The guards quickly took notice, eager to fulfill their orders and claim a reward from Lower. One of them ventured into the cave, concealing a knife behind his back, assuring the girl not to fear him, as he was a temple man there to escort everyone home. But instead of a woman, it was Lamb who stood there. The blade aimed at the exit. The knight, sensing something amiss with his comrade, approached and was taken aback to find a goblin in his place. In an instant, Lamb hurled the knight's body aside and lunged at the terrified knight with astonishing speed. His agility allowed him to inflict a painful wound, causing the knight to collapse in agony. Overcome with terror, the knight cried out, "You can speak human." Lamb's sharp steel blade was the only response to his fear. Realizing he was outmatched, the knight understood he was facing his demise. In a desperate plea for mercy, he knelt, showcasing a picture of his family, hoping for a chance to return to them. He flattered Lamb's intelligence, claiming he was merely obeying the temple's orders, insisting he had no choice in his actions. The knight offered Lamb a bag of gold and promised to select the most beautiful woman for him. However, for someone like Lamb, who had experienced betrayal, these words only ignited his fury. The knight's true intentions were laid bare. He had schemed to exploit Lamb's moment of hesitation to strike him down. Lamb's plan unfolded smoothly as he swiftly and coldly ended the knight's life. Despite feeling pity for the man's family, he knew that ruthlessness was sometimes necessary. Now that he was no longer human, his attention was caught by a voice from the forest. It was Lower and his men approaching. Lamb quickly discarded the knight's clothes and left in a hurry, determined to find Lower near soon. As Lower and Ephra arrived at the scene, they were shocked to discover the bodies of the 2 temple knights. After examining the bodies, Lower suspected a goblin ambush due to the clean, swift cuts. Ephra believed it was impossible for a regular goblin to achieve such a feat and suspected a mutated goblin was responsible. Lower, furious at the knight's failure, kicked one of the corpses in anger. Night fell, and the moonlight illuminated the forest with an eerie glow. Lamb, panting heavily but relieved to be alive, knew he had to stay alert. He planned to use the goblin way to deal with his enemies, knowing that goblins could upgrade their attributes through mating and cannibalism. Consumed by hatred, Lamb wanted to bring suffering to all men and make all women kneel at his feet, especially Lower and Ephra. However, his thoughts were interrupted by the rustling of leaves. Concern washed over him as he feared it might be one of the Loder's henchmen still on his trail. Determined to take the initiative, he resolved to strike first. Without a moment's hesitation, Lamp sprang to his feet and charged at his adversary. The sudden appearance of Lamp startled and terrified the stranger, who stumbled back in shock. To Lamp's astonishment, he realized he was facing a goblin. The sound it emitted led him to believe it could communicate. However, the momentum caused Lamp to lurch forward. Once he regained his balance, he was taken aback to discover that this goblin exhibited female traits. Why was a female goblin present at such a time? According to common knowledge, goblins were exclusively male and reproduced with other creatures. Her existence completely altered Lamp's understanding of goblins. Confused, he locked his gaze on the female goblin, who, sensing his intent, quickly sat up and pleaded for mercy, explaining that she was merely gathering water. This revelation only deepened Lamp's concern. How could this goblin articulate full sentences like him? Seeking clarity, he activated his assessment skill to examine her attributes. She was at level 3, with the profession of God's messenger, and held titles such as Fallen God and Pure Soul. Her stats revealed blood at 10, energy at 2, and defense at 1, along with skills like Devour and Wild Growth. Her overall strength was rated at 10, and Lamp was astonished to read a special note indicating that when a male goblin mates with a female goblin, they could become the legendary Goblin God. This thought sparked an unclean idea in Lamp's mind: if he were to unite with her, he could gain tremendous power. Sensing the dark thoughts swirling in Lamp's mind, the girl recoiled in fear. She explained that she had been sent by the patriarch to fetch water, and if she failed to return with it, she would face severe punishment. Noticing her distress, Lamp quickly apologized, assuring her that he hadn't meant to frighten her. He gently patted her shoulder, comforting her with the words that crying might draw the attention of dangerous individuals. The girl paid no mind to Lamp's actions. She was more interested in why Lamp could speak like her. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as Lamp chuckled and nodded in response to her cuteness. It was understandable, as regular goblins couldn't speak, and perhaps she rarely interacted with others in the tribe. However, Lamp's train of thought was once again interrupted when he noticed the girl clinging to his cloak. She mentioned that Lambda was kind because the other goblins would just bully her. It was the first time a goblin had treated her with such kindness. The girl then suggested that Lamb return with her to her tribe, surprising Lambda. He hadn't expected there to be a goblin tribe nearby, and he was still unsure if the people from the village were still after them. It wasn't the right time to go back, and he needed to find a safe place to hide. Lamb's eyes gleamed with excitement. This was a perfect opportunity for him to gather his first followers. He then proposed that the girl lead him to her tribe, to which she readily agreed without hesitation. It seemed that meeting a goblin as handsome as Lambda was a first for her. They soon arrived at the goblin camp, where Lamb's appearance made the other goblins extremely cautious. Dressed like a human, a sight they had never seen before, Lambda calmly observed the goblins around him. He felt content with the number of goblins present and decided to start building his kingdom from there. With a composed demeanor, he expressed his desire to join them and meet their leader. However, his proposal was promptly rejected, as they deemed a peculiar goblin like Lamb unworthy of meeting the patriarch. They planned to capture him and bring him before the leader. At that moment, the girl stepped forward anxiously to shield Lambda from the goblins, insisting that he was a good goblin. The uproar had drawn the patriarch's gaze, prompting him to ask about the disturbance. His unexpected presence caught everyone off guard. The patriarch was an ancient goblin wielding a staff adorned with numerous skulls, exuding a fierce aura that set him apart from any goblin Lamb had encountered before. Not only did his attire differ, but his stats were impressive as well: a level 25 priest with 102 blood, 29 defense, and 17 in other attributes. His skills included Devour, Summon, Thorn Control, and he wielded a skull staff and bone chains, boasting an overall strength of 200. Lamb's eyes widened with caution. He hadn't anticipated encountering such a formidable goblin in this tribe. As the goblin leader approached, he scrutinized the female goblin, inquiring if she had returned with the stranger. The girl, visibly anxious, confirmed that she had brought Lamb to the camp, explaining that he had nowhere else to turn. With a menacing glint in his red eyes, the leader commended her for her efforts but then, to her shock, commanded the other goblins to seize Lamb with the intent to kill and consume him. The goblins, thrilled at the thought of a meal, surged forward, shoving the girl aside and brandishing their weapons at Lamb. Reacting swiftly, Lamb drew his weapon, demanding they halt. He claimed he possessed the ability to forge weapons, asserting that joining their tribe would enhance their strength. The iron knife in his grasp immediately piqued the leader's interest, prompting him to order the goblins to stand down and approach Lamb. Bringing his nose close to Lamb's face, he claimed to sense deceit but was also curious about the types of weapons Lamb could create using his modern technological knowledge. Lamb explained that he could forge weapons from iron, provided they could locate iron ore, and assured them that, given enough time, he could produce weapons far superior to the knife. He pondered to himself that this goblin shaman had a surprisingly clear way of speaking. It appeared that the higher the goblin's level, the more intelligent they were. As the leader hesitated, the lamp emphasized that having iron weapons would give the tribe a fighting chance against humans or other monsters. The goblins started discussing the advantages of possessing iron weapons, realizing that it would greatly benefit them. They believed that compared to humans, goblins were weak creatures, but with iron weapons, they could venture north to capture females for mating. Confronted with the significant advantages of iron weapons, the leader agreed to give Lamp an opportunity. He instructed Lamp to find iron ore and craft weapons within 3 days. Or else he and the female goblin would be eaten. Upon hearing this, the girl became extremely anxious. After issuing his demands, the leader and the goblin horde departed, leaving the distressed girl behind. Lamp gazed at the leader with a hint of anger, silently judging him as a ruthless individual willing to harm even his own tribe members when provoked. Suppressing his anger, Lamp acknowledged that he couldn't defeat the leader with his current strength. He knew he had to focus on creating weapons and becoming stronger. The following day at dawn, Lamp led the goblins and the tribe on a quest to find iron ore. As night fell, the moonlight cast eerie shadows in the forest, making it appear ominous. The female goblin, Gobu, was also present, expressing her exhaustion and inability to continue walking. Despite her pleas for help, she received no assistance from her kind. Instead, they insulted her, called her names, and threatened her life if she didn't locate the iron ore. Feeling overwhelmed, Lamp witnessed the goblin's cruelty towards Gobu and, unable to bear the sight, he picked up a rock and hurled it at one of the goblin's heads. Lamp picked up a rock and hurled it at one of the goblins, causing them to glare at him with furious eyes. He made it clear that he wanted their assistance in locating iron ore, not engaging in a fight. He explained that he would show them what iron ore looked like and warned that if they wished to survive and return, they needed to head to the valley ahead and bring back some iron ore. If they refused, he threatened to kill them on the spot. With a knife in hand, Lamp glared at the 3 goblins, his expression fierce and intimidating. The threat sent shivers down their spines as they envisioned him using the iron weapon against them, prompting them to hastily search for iron ore while also vowing to kill Lamp if he failed to forge weapons. Lamp contemplated that eventually, they would turn on him after acquiring iron tools. His focus shifted to the task of gaining strength, and he noticed a notification about mating with Gu to become a goblin god. Realizing it was time to engage in adult matters, he approached Gobu, who was crying, and urged her to stop. He sat beside her and offered to protect her, provide food, a warm home, and ensure she wouldn't be bullied. Confused by his words, Gobu asked if he was sincere. Looking at her earnestly, Lamp confirmed that he was telling the truth, but admitted he was currently too weak to stop the bullying. He needed to grow stronger, and Gobu was the only one who could assist him. The girl, still puzzled, inquired how she could help him gain strength. Feeling a bit shy, Lamp suggested that if they made love, he would become stronger. This caused Gobu's face to flush red, and she looked at him skeptically, admitting she had never done such a thing before. Lamp, also slightly embarrassed by the topic, assured her that everything would be all right and that he would guide her if she was willing. Lamp didn't wait for her response before gently kissing her soft lips and laying her down on the ground. The girl, feeling embarrassed, agreed to bear his children and shy sounds filled the air. Notifications appeared one after another, informing him that mating had raised his current level to level 7. The sound of upgrading echoed as his attributes increased. Lamp's body began to change, with more defined muscles and stats of 40 HP, 10 strength, 6 defense, and a total strength of 65 at level 7. Surprised by the transformation, Lamp believed he could now defeat the goblin leader. Lanine affectionately stroked Gu's head, declaring her as his wife and promising to protect her forever. The girl blushed and thanked Lamp, calling him a good person. Suddenly, a cry for help caught their attention as a goblin ran towards them in fear, chased by a large wolf holding iron ore. Lamp knew he had to deal with this problem first before obtaining the ore. He grabbed his knife and asked Gobu to wait, earning the goblin's trust. The wolf became a test of Lamp's strength as he charged at it with his sharp iron knife, killing it with one blow. The goblin, now terrified of Lamp, quickly handed over the iron ore when asked. Lamp marveled at the high-quality iron ore in his hand, laughing with delight. They needed more of this to make weapons for the goblins in the tribe. 2 days passed, and with the help of other goblins, Lamp successfully created a spear with an iron blade. Although not the prettiest, it was a significant achievement for Lamp and the goblins. The goblins were amazed that Lamp could create a weapon out of iron, wondering if it would actually work. To demonstrate the effectiveness of the new weapon, Lamp easily plunged the spearhead into the tough skull of the number 1 crocodile wolf. The other goblins were astonished by this display. The goblin Lambda, who had been saved before, was incredibly excited. Pointing at the crocodile wolf's corpse, claiming he had seen Lamp kill the wolf in just a few seconds using the iron weapon. The other goblins agreed that the iron spear was much more powerful than the stone spears. As they discussed, Lamp held the spear high, asking if they wanted weapons like this. Without hesitation, the other goblins shouted excitedly that they wanted one, hailing Lamp as a god. However, the goblin leader was not pleased. He was angry that a newcomer had stolen his respect. Slamming his skull-head staff onto the ground with menacing red eyes, the leader admitted that creating a weapon out of iron was a miracle, but it wasn't enough for Lamp to stay in the tribe. The leader demanded that Lamp create 50 iron spears within 2 days. After making his demand, the leader immediately left, leaving the other goblins in a state of uncertainty. The goblins believed their leader was excessively cruel, prompting them to assist Lamb in completing his task. Lamb was unfazed by their decision. He chuckled with confidence, realizing that he had gained the respect of his fellow goblins. This was a significant advancement in his strategy. On the day of the delivery, Lamb had successfully crafted 50 iron spears, much to the delight of the tribe. With a menacing glare and a sly grin, the leader expressed his satisfaction with Lamb's work, allowing him to stay and celebrate. To mark the occasion, the leader organized a feast, insisting that everyone join in. The goblins quickly began to dance and revel around the bonfire. Gobu, eager to share the best part of the feast, cut a piece of pork and offered it to Lamb. He gratefully accepted, but after indulging for a while, a sudden pain overwhelmed him, causing him to collapse in agony. Gobu was horrified. It was evident that Lamb had been poisoned. The culprit was none other than the leader himself, who approached Lamb with a sinister grin. He taunted Lamb, declaring him foolish and revealing that he was aware of Lamb's true motives. The leader warned that those who dared to defy him would meet a grim fate. Before Lamb could respond, the leader seized Gobu by the hair, pulling her close. He maliciously noted Lamb's affection for her, intending to make him witness her suffering. A crimson line appeared on Gobu's neck as the leader's claws dug in. He aimed to shatter Lamb's pride and inflict pain. However, in a shocking turn of events, a stream of blood erupted, but it was the leader's own blood, as Lamb had managed to sever the leader's arm. The leader, trembling with fear, questioned how he could still move after being poisoned. Landa smirked, calling the leader a fool for underestimating a villain like him. He had always been on guard and was merely feigning weakness. In truth, Landa had anticipated the poisoning, thanks to a warning from the system. Enraged, the leader had no option but to fight back, though he was at a disadvantage with only one arm left. He swung the bone chain in his grasp, but Landa was too quick, dodging effortlessly. With a leap, Landa aimed his iron knife at the leader's head, delivering a fatal blow. The goblins, witnessing their leader's demise, were struck with fear. Landa seized the moment. Proclaiming himself their new leader, promising to transform them into a formidable goblin tribe with plenty of meat to feast on. He embraced Gobu and raised his knife high, asserting his dominance. The other goblins, simple-minded and driven by their primal instincts, quickly accepted him as their leader. In return for their loyalty, Landa offered the fallen leader's corpse, and without hesitation, they revealed their savage nature, devouring the body in a gruesome display that left Landa feeling repulsed. Yet, He understood this was the harsh reality of life. His focus now shifted to building a strong tribe and nurturing the next generation of goblins, marking just the beginning of his quest for revenge. Amidst the turmoil, a pair of golden-haired eyes observed from a distance a curious elf girl, pondering the strange events unfolding under the eerie moonlight as shadows danced around peculiar houses. Suddenly, a figure darted with astonishing speed, leaping into a brightly lit homes in the forest as if they were one with nature. The queen remained composed as she observed the growing number of goblins, signaling for the man to continue serving her with a snap of her fingers. She instructed Kasana to form a team to handle the goblins, with the condition that some must be left alive. This was not out of mercy, but rather to gather their hearts for a potion to aid the elf men in her tribe. Kasana, aware of the potion's effects, blushed at the queen's request. In appreciation of Kasana's efforts, the queen offered her a man for the night and asked about her preferences, to which Kasana declined, citing other responsibilities before hastily leaving. Meanwhile, at Lin Tian's camp, the goblins gathered around a map of the elf tribe, carefully studied by Lin Tian's followers. The tribe consisted of 30 homes situated high above. Lin Tian praised his follower, promising him 2 elf girls as a reward for defeating the tribe, and instructed everyone to prepare their iron weapons. The mention of the elf girls excited the goblins, who eagerly readied themselves for battle. Despite the goblins' enthusiasm, Lin Tian remained serious, understanding the importance of strength for survival in their world. He assessed the situation, estimating the tribe to have at least 70 members, including guards at the mine. Since taking over as leader, Lin Tian had trained the goblins in weapon crafting and monster hunting, improving their skills. Under his guidance, the goblins moved through the forest with determination, defeating numerous monsters. The goblins consumed the monsters, acquiring new skills such as tusks attacks and skin hardening like stone, increasing their defense by 15 points. Some goblins also gained abilities like silent movement and venom production. While not all goblins obtained new skills, the overall strength of the tribe improved. Some standout goblins reached level 18, equipped with iron spears and armor, boasting a total strength of 250. The average strength of goblins in the tribe rose to 200. Despite this, the elf tribe's collective strength remained superior, causing Lin Tian some worry. As preparations for the upcoming battle intensified, Lin Tian turned to the simulation system to create an effective attack plan. The simulation began with a large goblin army led by Lin Tian, confident in their victory. However, the elves surprised the goblins with an ambush, leading to their defeat. Captured by the elf leader in the demon forest, a warning was sent to other goblins. The simulation results were disappointing, as it was clear that someone else was manipulating the outcome, resulting in a score of 0 and no reward. Reflecting on the phrase "under someone else's control," Lin Tian realized that the elves were monitoring his tribe. Focusing his senses, he detected anomalies and strange sounds in the distance. Meanwhile, the elves, under the leadership of Kasana, hurried back to their tribe, shocked by the unexpected attack from the goblin tribe. Initially, Kasana had brought a group to eliminate the goblins, but now the situation had escalated beyond her expectations. Kasana found herself injured on the ground, fear gripping her as she surveyed the fallen bodies of her fellow elves. In the distance, Linden and the other goblins approached, their faces twisted with malicious delight at the sight of an elven captive. Kasana tried to flee, but her body refused to respond. The wound felt strange, as if the arrow had been poisoned. Lin Tian, surprised by how easily he had captured her, remarked that she had arrived at the perfect moment. He coldly ordered his followers to capture all the elves. Kasana was jolted awake by a strange liquid, her soaked form revealing her striking features, her dazed eyes hinting at dark intentions. The goblins looked at her with unrestrained desire, eagerly anticipating the right moment to act. Lamp seized Kasana, fully aware of the captivating allure of her elven form, which sent the goblins into a frenzy. Capturing her would give them a chance to defeat the elven queen. As Lamp eyed his prey, Kasana trembled and tried to assert herself, calling him a coward and declaring her status as the elven princess. She questioned his audacity in kidnapping her and threatening her kin, reminding him that her mother's kindness had spared him and his goblins from destruction long ago. She warned him that if he dared to touch her, the Goblin Queen would annihilate all goblins present. Lamp merely scoffed at her threats, tossing her to the ground and mocking her claims of elven kindness. The surrounding goblins joined in his laughter, and he pointed to one of them, stating that what he had heard from his subordinate contradicted Kasana's story. He claimed that while his subordinates might be stupid but they never lied. The lamp shed light on his understanding of her true intentions, to eradicate all goblins in the forest. He mentioned that the Elf Queen wished to spare some goblins, not out of kindness, but for a mysterious reason he didn't feel inclined to inquire about. He declared that he would lead his tribe to investigate further that night. The goblins were ordered to feast on the fallen elves and absorb their abilities. Kasana was filled with dread, having been betrayed by humans before. Lambda had become ruthless and calculating towards his enemies as a means of survival. He gazed at Kasana with a cold, emotionless expression, stating that he would personally deal with her. Kasana was paralyzed with fear. Only able to let out faint, choked sounds before letting out a scream that reverberated through the forest. It was evident that Lambda had committed a truly horrifying act. The system announced Lambda had reached level 30, gaining 50 HP, 10 strength, 10 defense, as well as the skills of invisibility and night vision. The sounds of pleasure and exhaustion from the men inside the Queen's chamber left her feeling despondent, as her wicked desires remained unfulfilled. She regretted not capturing enough goblins to create tonics for the men. 3 men lay collapsed from exhaustion around her. Suddenly, she remembered Kasana and inquired about her whereabouts. An elf quickly informed her that Kasana had embarked on a mission and had not returned, despite being overdue. He suggested sending a party to assist Kasana, which would also provide more goblins for the tribe to eliminate and enhance their combat abilities. The Queen granted him full authority to dispatch individuals to aid Kasana and eradicate the goblins. A voice broke the silence, revealing that Kasana would not be returning that day. The words instilled fear in the group, as they realized they were under attack. The elf man was on the verge of drawing his weapon to defend himself when a barrage of sharp iron arrows swiftly took him down. The Elf Queen, a combination of skill and luck, managed to catch one of the arrows, but she was filled with fear as goblins invaded her sanctuary. Lonna, leading the goblin horde, burst through the window and announced that he had captured Kasana and claimed she would bear his child. He boldly referred to the Elf Queen as his mother-in-law, asserting their newfound familial connection. The Elf Queen was horrified by his words, her anger boiling over as she demanded to know what he had done to her daughter. Lonna pretended to be unaware, his expression emotionless, further enraging the Queen. She attempted to attack him, but her strength had waned after being overpowered by 3 men, making her attempt seem feeble to Lonna. He coldly informed her that the elf tribe was surrounded, and if she surrendered, he might show them mercy. The Elf Queen collapsed to the floor, her body numb and unable to rise. Lonna revealed that the arrow she had caught was tainted with goblin bodily fluid, causing rapid paralysis upon contact. In a fit of rage, she tried to stand, her sweat-drenched body exposed and vulnerable, which only intrigued Lonna further. He taunted her, suggesting that she had used the heart of a goblin as a stimulant, expressing surprise at the elf's depravity. He mused that she could never have imagined a day when the goblins she despised would come seeking revenge. The Elf Queen's fear deepened as she recognized Lonna as the strange goblin Kasana had mentioned earlier, just as screams and cries for help echoed from outside the room. The Queen, her heart racing with dread, turned to Lanine, her voice trembling as she inquired about the unfolding events. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burning wood, a stark contrast to the once serene beauty of her realm. He leaned closer, his breath hot against her ear, urging her to face the grim reality of their situation. You must make a decision, and quickly, if you wish to minimize the damage. I can help you, but you must understand the cost. His words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I need more powerful warriors, and your life will be spared based on your choice. As the barbaric scene unfolded outside, the Queen's heart sank further. She could see elfmen being slaughtered mercilessly, their bodies falling like autumn leaves, while goblins dragged away the young girls, their screams piercing the night. The sight was unbearable, and the weight of her responsibility pressed down on her like a crushing wave. In that moment of despair, the queen, realizing the gravity of the situation, knelt down and begged for mercy. She promised to fulfill all of Lenine's demands, including bearing children for him, in exchange for sparing her child and tribe.